The Minnesota Wild were done in by their special teams to close out the month of October in a 4-3 loss to the New Jersey Devils. We'll take a look at the personnel for both groupings, if there should be changes made. Yes, there should. And we'll talk about some of the good and the bad that we've seen through the first month of the season on today's episode of Locked on Wild.
You're Locked on Wild, your daily podcast on the Minnesota Wild. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, this is Brandon Duham, and this is Locked on Wild.
What is up, everybody? Welcome into another episode of Locked on Wild, your daily Minnesota Wild podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you, as always, for making Locked on Wild your first listen each and every day. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast platforms, and tell your friends to hop in on the action so you don't miss out on any of our content throughout the entirety of the 2023-2024 season. Today's episode of Locked on Wild is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. On today's episode of Locked on Wild, we fix the Minnesota Wild special teams by taking a look at the personnel and some overall strategy tweaks that we need to see from both units to try to get them up off the ground through the early part of the season. My name is Seth Topal, your daily Minnesota Wild insider, as we are joined today by Alex Micheletti. Unfortunately, not a victory Micheletti Monday, but we'll take a Micheletti Monday every day of the week. Alex, the Wild finished the month of October with a 4-3 loss to the New Jersey Devils. Allow me to hit you with some stats. Everybody listening, make sure that you sit down for this one. Michael Russo, in his recap of the game, which dropped the Wild to 3-4-2 to start off the season, notes that the special teams units for the Minnesota Wilds are not great at this current moment. The Minnesota Wild penalty kill has allowed 9 goals on 28 chances so far this season for 67.8%. The Minnesota Wild power play did get a goal against the Devils in a 1-6 outing, and they are 4 for 30. So special teams have been a little bit of a disaster to start the season, Alex, which is nothing new because we've seen this at stretches throughout the last couple of seasons quite regularly.
Yeah, 100%. If the PK could have just figured things out against the Devils, they were right in that game. But it was special teams that did them in, and I mean the Devils had the best power play in the NHL, so give them credit for that. But you have to win the special teams battle, or otherwise in games like that you're giving yourself no chance. And then they had the opportunity late there with the power play, and they couldn't get it done even with the extra attacker too. So that was clearly frustrating.
And Dean Evison talked about it after the game. And the movement is a large part of the problem on the power play. It looks as though, and actually it was fascinating to watch the difference between both teams and their special teams units. The Devils on the power play, from what I was able to gather in, they don't wait for things to happen. They make them happen. And there's movement from side to side. They had the Wild penalty kill chasing the entire night. And when you are able to get a penalty kill unit to swing over to one side of the ice and then have a player kind of backdoor to get behind everybody, it leads to about as easy of tap-in goals as you're going to get. And so for as much as the Devils power play made the Wild penalty kill move, the Wild power play did absolutely zero of that, and really made the night pretty easy for the Devils penalty kill.
Yeah, very, very frustrating. And I tweeted this out too. you're seeing, the Devils, they had their superstars going. Toffoli was great. Jesper Bratt had a couple goals. Dougie Hamilton is so good there on the back end. Even Vanacek was making some big saves for them. But, when it came to the Wild superstar, Kirill Kaprizov, he had another quiet game, and they need him to produce every night, or at least, if he's not scoring, at least, making a difference out there. And it just was, kind of a nondescript game from 97 again. So, that's clearly, a big time issue right now. And they're going to need him to, especially as we've talked off air, with this stretch of games that are going to be coming up against Eastern Conference opponents, where, I'm thankful that the Wild are not in the Eastern Conference, because that is just a gauntlet on that side for sure.
It's interesting, too, as I'm continuing to dive into the numbers from this game. Marc-Andre Fleury made 2 saves on the power play. He did give up the 2 power play goals. So the Devils, in their 3 power plays, 4 total shots, but they scored on 2 of them. So it's not as though they were getting a ton of shots on net. They just were very opportunistic with the opportunities that they had. Minnesota Wild, in their 6 power plays in the game, Vitek Vanacek made 12 saves. So the Wild had 13 shots on the power play in their 6. And there were a couple of them that were good. I will give that. There were a couple of power plays in which the Wild were able to basically hold the zone the entirety of the power play. They got some good looks. Wasn't a ton of movement, but there still were shots on net. But that was 2 of the 6. And in the other 4, a lot of it, you had struggles even getting into the offensive zone, and especially in that 6-on-4 to end the game. Pillars, just too much pillar play. It's not power play, it's pillar play, because everybody is just anchored into the grounds. And you can't expect to score on the power play when you're not pulling anybody out from in front of the net.
Yeah, 100%. You could see Dean was getting frustrated too, and he had to move Ryan Hartman up to the top unit, and he produced. Good for him when given that opportunity. But yeah, for the most part, just like we've talked about, special teams continues to be an issue for this team. They made the change with the power play coming into the season, but the penalty kill, they're having so much time, or so much trouble winning draws. I mean, if you can't win a draw, it already puts you on your heels. And a team like the Devils is going to capitalize. They smell blood in the water.
Final thing that I will leave us with before we speculate next segment as to who should get more time is the breakdown by minutes. I'm going to start with the penalty kill, because that one's a little easier to muster. Joel Eriksson Ek led all Wild forwards with 1 minute 35 seconds of penalty kill time. Marco Rossi actually was next. He had 1 minute and 16 seconds of penalty kill time. After that, it was Ryan Hartman with 56 seconds, Marcus Foligno with 52, Connor Dewar with 30 seconds, Brandon Duhaime with 28, and then Marcus Johansson with 12. I think those top 2 in Eriksson Ek, and we're starting to see Marco Rossi get a more rounded chunk of time on the ice, more time on both special teams units. So I think that's fine, but you got to make some personnel changes. I think you can't just expect that the same group of players is going to be able to just change it up, especially if you're not going to change the scheme. This has been another one of the big talking points, is it's not the scheme, it's the players. So then at that point, you got to make some changes on the personnel that are getting this time then.
Yeah, 100%. And you look at guys that, have had a lot of success in the past, and bring that speed. For the PK, I'd love to see Brandon Duhaime and Dewar get more time on the penalty kill. I mean, that speed just causes havoc. We've seen them get numerous opportunities to score shorthanded. The Montreal game. It'd be nice to see them get some more opportunities on the PK.
And it's easier with players with speed to be able to go out and challenge the opposing power play. If you don't have players that are fast to be able to get out to the edges and defend people, then that's where you run into problems. So I don't know. We'll see. The other part that irked me was seeing that Jon Merrill had more penalty kill time than Jake Middleton did tonight. We're going to talk about that a little bit here coming up because I've got some thoughts. We'll weave that into the good and the bad thus far as we continue today's episode of Locked on Wild after this. Today's episode of Locked on Wild is brought to you by Game Time. And if you like to live life in the moment like I do, you've probably tried to buy tickets to watch your favorite team in action the day of the event. You may have encountered a lot of expensive ticket options, or if you had the misfortune that I did, you buy the tickets, you go to the event, and you find that your view is completely obstructed. Nobody wants to deal with any of that, and so Game Time is taking all of those stressful factors and throwing them right out the window. Game Time is making your ticket buying experience as stress-free as possible with their last-minute tickets, plus views from every seat in the venue. And with Game Time's lowest price guarantee, event cancellation protection, and more, they are here to help make your game day experience as enjoyable as possible. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Welcome back to today's episode of Locked on Wild. Once again, we thank you for making Locked on Wild your first listen each and every day. For the everydayers, make sure that you stick with us as we are going to go a little further into special teams on tomorrow's show with our Textbook Tuesday. Going to try to figure out all the little things that lead to a successful power play and a successful penalty kill as well. So Textbook Tuesday hitting the books hard to try to fix these bleeping special teams units that have been just abysmal so far. And Alex, we teased before the break, and I know it was because Jake Middleton took a penalty like 15 seconds into the game, which led to Jon Merrill getting more penalty kill time than Jake Middleton had, which is a sentence that should just not exist in the English language. But that leads me to my point is I think we have gotten to the point with what we've seen from Dakota Mermis that Dakota Mermis is a better defenseman right now than Jon Merrill, and I don't think it's particularly close.
No, it's crazy to think that, right? But he's taking advantage of his opportunity and not making as many mistakes. If you just play a clean game, that does you wonders. And Jon Merrill continues when he's on the ice, you're in panic mode. It's very, very scary.
And just looking at some of the other numbers, Brett Marshall's player cards from the game yesterday, Jon Merrill, the lowest score amongst anybody that played with a minus 1.33. His pairing partner, Kalen Addison, actually had a 1.83, which was best amongst Wild defensemen. And so I think we are seeing that a lot of these defensive breakdowns kind of starting to be centered around one particular person that continues to find time in the lineup. And I got to say at this point, I just continue to quote the line from The Office. What would you say you do here?
Yeah, it's so frustrating, and this is such a key stretch of games coming up, too, where if if they don't win a couple of them, the wheels could really fall off, and nobody wants to see that at all. And we're you saw it after today's game too. Some of the guys are getting really frustrated. They want
Yeah.
to see Fleury get to second all time and wins too, and he's so close. And hopefully you don't have to wait until 2024 for that to happen. So, but the way things are going, who knows? Right?
Yeah. Hartman said it point blank after the game. He said, we just can't keep throwing up eggs like we have been. It's like the players know that the performance needs to improve. And so I guess small victory is that in the games against the Capitals and the Devils, they've looked closer to what we've come to expect over the last couple of seasons, but it still hasn't been anywhere close to a complete game as of yet. Special teams has been abysmal. Oh, and if you want to hear that schedule coming up for the month of November, buckle up. So the month starts with New Jersey on the 2nd, then home against the Rangers on the 4th, at New York Islanders, at New York Rangers, at Buffalo Sabres, home against the Dallas Stars. Then you go to Sweden to play the Ottawa Senators and the Toronto Maple Leafs. Then you're home against the Colorado Avalanche on the 24th, at Detroit, who is red hot to start the season, on the 26th, home against St. Louis on the 28th, and at Nashville on the 30th. The Nashville Predators are probably, if we're being realistic, outside of the Ottawa Senators game, those are the two most winnable games of the entire month. You could throw Buffalo in there, but we remember what happened when we played Buffalo last year. It just turned into a track meet. And I'm sorry, but this team is not equipped to be able to win in that style of play. And so you've got realistically probably 3 games the entire month in which you'll be favored to come away with wins.
Yikes! Yeah, it makes you put your head on your hand on your head. Yeah, it's gonna be the most difficult stretch of the season here. So, there's gonna be a lot of guys looking themselves in the mirror, and can they handle the adversity? We'll see. Um, you know, some of their best players aren't playing to their capabilities, and it's the trade Jared Spurgeon crowd. They can, I think they're very, very quiet right now because he is so missed. He does so much for this team, and it seems like some of the defensive pairs are out of whack with and some guys aren't enjoying playing with who they're playing with right now, and so that
Jon Merrill.
that is causing a lot of frustration on the
A
back end.
little Locked on Wild ASMR for you. Another player for the opponent just blows by Jon Merrill to the net for a goal.
Oh, yeah, he's in the penalty box again.
Jon Merrill tripping penalty.
At the worst time.
Yeah. 2 minutes to go. And a tripping penalty on Jon Merrill. He'll head to the box. Okay. I should that's probably enough of that. If you're wondering why on earth ASMR has made its way to Locked on Wild, check out the Minnesota Wild social media accounts. They did a full video. It was superb, with various players who played along, and a lot of equipment was used, and very hushed voices. But yeah, it's time, I think, to make a move at the very least to bring somebody else in defensively to see what you've got, because one of the bright spots of this month so far has been Marco Rossi, who is a young player himself, who has brought a spark to this team. And Dean Evison and the coaching staff continue to reward him with additional minutes. His minute count in the game against the Devils, 16 minutes, 39 seconds. He played 18 minutes against the Washington Capitals. And so he has been 15 plus over the last handful of games. These are things that we like to see.
Yeah, 100%. And he's taking advantage of his opportunity and running with it. The confidence level, it's awesome. It's awesome to see, and he knows he belongs, and they're gonna need him. He is he's stepping up without Matt Boldy in the lineup, and so and he's doing it probably with not the most ideal line mates too. Well, now they don't have Freddie, so. And you said that could be a month. So
yeah, it looks like
that's really bad.
It looks like from what Michael Russo was saying, that the timetable is about a month for Freddie Gaudreau. So when does he get put on long-term injured reserve? Probably when they get back. I would imagine that just hand me the crown if that ends up happening before you listen to this or while you're listening to this. I haven't seen anything on it, but if it's going to be a month, it wouldn't surprise me if that ends up happening sooner than later. And at that point, then you're going to see another forward come up. Will it be Sammy Walker or will it be Adam Beckman?
Yeah, if Adam Beckman continues to not get a chance, then that's how you know of what the organization thinks of him. He's got to be so frustrated that he hasn't gotten a chance here.
If he doesn't get an opportunity, you may as well package him to try to bring in a defenseman that can take Jon Merrill's spot in the lineup. Oh, wait, there's really no money to do that.
Right.
But it's essential that you do. And I'm not even talking about getting yourself into position to be a contender per se. I'm talking about getting through the season.
Right.
You can't. I don't think you can continue with having that type of just black hole defensively on the ice. And so they're going to have to do something, whether it be a call up or bringing somebody else in. I think that third pairing, and I'm not talking about Kalen Addison. I thought he was fine. I don't think he's been the issue per se on that pairing. I think we have zeroed in on where the problem is, and I think that problem needs to be addressed.
Yeah, 100%. And I don't think 11-7 is sustainable the entire season.
No, not if the seventh defenseman plays 5 minutes.
Right. What are we doing?
What good does that do you? That's
doesn't
not
help
fair
at
to
all.
Damon Hunt.
No.
You may as well just play 11-6.
Right. Yeah, it makes
basically
zero sense.
The net positive was that you took 5 minutes off the board from Jon Merrill, but that's about it.
That's about it. Yeah. You still got 55 more to figure it out.
The other positive, he scored, and honestly, I think continues to exceed expectations for him coming into the season is Pat Maroon.
Yeah.
He just continues to be a huge benefit to this team. I know he had a couple of penalties in one of the previous games, but beyond that, he has provided more, I think, offensive upside than anybody expected. Maybe not as physical as people thought, but boy, I mean, he is helping. He's helping this team offensively.
Oh, imagine if they didn't make that move and they were able to, get Reeves on a shorter type of deal. I mean, imagine what this team would look like right now. It'd be even worse, and it's nice to see him producing. And he brings that winning mentality from Tampa and St. Louis, and a guy that's going to hold guys accountable too. And so, it's nice to have his leadership in there. They're not winning right now, but he's producing, and so that's all you can ask for from a guy like that. And he's older in age now, and he's on the back end of his career, but he's always had those hands, and so that's clearly working out. he was so patient on his goal, against Vanacek, who was playing really well. So yeah,
just was getting mugged on his way
yes.
to the net.
Yeah.
Just
Waited to the absolute last second to shoot, and
what?
it somehow went in.
If you haven't seen the highlight, he quite literally takes his stick and like flips it around while he's being grabbed and still has enough to be able to get the shot in the net. It's amazing. And I think
Pat Maroon to a T of a goal. Pat Maroon goal.
it's the quintessential Pat Maroon experience.
Yes.
And it's becoming something that is noticeable on a nightly basis. And so if he benefits from a boost in minutes right now while this team is trying to figure things out, I'm all for it. Ideally, you probably want him lower in the lineup as we go. But if he's going to be somebody that's going to impact the game this much early on, throw him on the first line. I don't care.
Yeah, clearly, if a guy is going and you give him the minutes,
Yeah.
someone on this team has to step up. Some of the big dollar guys aren't playing to their full potential right now, and so if he's the one to step up, give him some more minutes.
Jon Merrill just gave up another goal. This has been another edition of Locked on Wild ASMR. We will get to a break. When we come back, we will talk about obviously some unfortunate news in the hockey world. And we'll look at what is coming up here as this week unfolds. All that and more as we finish today's episode of Locked on Wild after this. Today's episode of Locked on Wild is also brought to you by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. You can score early this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. If you picked the Minnesota Vikings to take care of business against the Green Bay Packers at Lambeau this past weekend, you cashed in huge with $150 in bonus bets with your winning bid. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there is no better time to get in on the action. The app is incredibly easy to use with a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. So if you did win, use some of that bonus bets for player props for Jordan Addison, TJ Hawkinson. Cam Akers scored a touchdown. He'd be a good pick as well. Visit FanDuel.com/locked-on and kick off the NFL season today. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. Final segment of today's episode of Locked on Wild. Once again, we thank you for making Locked on Wild your first listen each and every day. Seth Topal joined by Alex Micheletti, and just wrapping up the show today. A weird week, Alex, as the Wilds get a couple of days off. They don't play again until Thursday. And so I wanted to get your thoughts on this because it was a question that was brought up in the postcast. Do you like, at this point in the season, kind of early on, do you like having almost a mini bye here to get a couple of days off before practicing and then getting up to Thursday? Or at this point, would you still like to see just, that Tuesday game slotted into to kind of keep everything on track?
I think this team needs that little break, especially after some tough ones where, just not scoring in the shootout there. That was, of course, against Darcy Kemper, of course, and not playing well against Philly. And then this one against the Devils where it was just, extremely frustrating. So, and they're traveling back. So, yeah, I think they need to clear their heads for sure.
Yeah, I would be fine. I would be fine with just an opportunity for everybody to just clear their minds a little bit. What I would like to see is a more strenuous practice on Wednesday, like really, especially on the special team side, really dive in and give that thing some work. And I think at this point, if you give the team a hard practice in front of a difficult game, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I know we've seen with how strenuous the hockey season is, we've seen teams a lot more reluctant, a lot more apt to cancel morning skates, limit practice time so that guys can be humming on all cylinders for the game. But I think in instances like this, you have to put practice time in, especially in these areas where you're just getting throttled on special teams. And if it is indeed on the players, well, then you got to show them what you want them to do and how to pick up important kills, how to win faceoffs on the penalty kill, how to clear the puck without turning it over at the top of the zone and turning it directly into a Devils goal. You got to work on those things. They don't just happen. So let's honor the couple of days off. I don't think that needs to change. But let's really hit it hard on Wednesday and a good physical practice, get everybody feeling good about where they're at going into the game, and then just give the Devils everything you got on Thursday.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same team again, and if they can keep it 5-on-5, they can hang with this Devils team, and now they'll be at home and they'll get advantage of last change, and so hopefully that helps. But yeah, you can't. This Devils team is too talented to give them the man advantage. I mean, like I said, I think the Wild would love to have a Dougie Hamilton back there that can he's just a maestro on their special teams. And the way Jack Hughes is playing, I mean, no one has more points than Jack Hughes. And Jesper Bratt is now showing that he's turning into a superstar. He got his big deal too, and an underrated guy for them that they picked up was Tyler Toffoli. I mean, everywhere that man goes, he produces, and yeah, they are a cup contender for sure. I don't 100% believe in their goaltending, but Vanacek was good against the Wild. So,
yeah, good enough to beat Minnesota.
Exactly. So we'll see if he keeps that up or not.
The Wild then finished the week by taking on Igor Shesterkin. Sorry, that's a Twitter joke. The New York Rangers on Saturday, and the Rangers have obviously one of the best goalies in the NHL. But again, as it comes down to with so many other teams, it seems the Rangers are pretty good on the power play too.
Yeah, and Artemi Panarin is actually shooting the puck now too, which is scary because he was not doing that at all last year, and Rangers fans were really on him, and now he's really shooting the puck. And then you have Chris Kreider too, which I'm worried about for the Wild because he just parks himself right in front of the net, and he gets so many goals right out front. And Zibanejad wins so many face-offs too, and then you want to talk about Dougie Hamilton being a maestro. They have Adam Fox, who's Norris Trophy winner. He's an amazing defenseman back there, and the emergence of a Minnesotan K'Andre Miller, who had the overtime winner the other night for the Rangers. He's turning into a great player, and they have former Gopher Ryan Lindgren back there too, and Jacob Trouba, who's always polarizing. So that is going to be a physical matchup. The games against the Rangers are always very interesting.
That's the sound of former Minnesota Wild center Nick Bonino winning another face-off. He's winning like our boy Johnny Lazarus will be on the show this week to preview that game, but he's winning like 60% of his draws for the Rangers this year. So Nick Bonino doing well, and we'll get a chance to see him come up on Saturday. Wanted to finish, obviously, the hockey world, hearing the news of Adam Johnson, former UMD Bulldog, who tragically passed away after a horrific incident on the ice in a game over the weekend. I know there's been a lot of talk as to the play itself. Absolutely not going to go into that here. Just a horrible incident that happened, and thoughts obviously to the Johnson family, to the UMD family. obviously grieving as well some Wild players who were affected by the situation as well. The Pittsburgh Penguins, of course, as Adam spent time there. So condolences from Locked On Wilds to the family, and it's just the most awful situation you can think of on the arena, and it's something that you hope you never see. And it's tragic that it unfolded the way it did.
Yeah, he's from Hibbing, Minnesota, where my dad is from, and my dad knows the family too. It's just so sad. And I remember, he's only a couple years younger than us, and just watching him with Hibbing in the state tournament. He was an amazing hockey player and had such a passion for the game, and he was continuing his career to England. He had been in Sweden, and he had been all over the world, and still loved the game, and was excited to be playing in a country like England. And it's so heartbreaking. And it's for the fans that had to witness that too, and everybody that was involved. Yeah, yeah, life is so precious. You never know.
Yeah.
And so thinking of his family and all of his teammates, and everybody that's connected. And the hockey world is it seems large, but in the grand scheme of things, like you said, there's so many people that have been affected by this. Bill Guerin, who was part of the Pittsburgh organization that helped sign Adam, and yeah, it's just so sad.
Yeah, it's really just unfortunate all the way around. So again, our condolences, and that'll be how we end the show here on Locked on Wild for today. But we thank everybody for tuning in as always. Make sure you take the opportunity, if you haven't already, to subscribe on your favorite podcast platforms or on YouTube as well, so you don't miss out on any content, including pre and post game recaps, as well as full episodes throughout the week. You can find everything we've got to offer at Locked On Wild, with new episodes all week long as part of the Locked On Podcast Network.